Dr. Kethavara pressed her scaled hand against the cold metal of the observation deck window. Beyond the glass, the dead solar system stretched out in haunting silence. The star that once warmed a world called Earth now glowed red and swollen, ready to die. Where Earth had once spun in its orbit, only a dark crystal ball remained. All life burned away millions of years ago. "Why are we here again?" asked Commander Zeftai, his four arms crossed as he watched the lifeless planets drift past their ship. "This system has been picked clean by 100 expeditions. There's nothing left to find." Kethavara turned away from the window. Her people, the Zeltharians, had always been curious about dead worlds. Their scaled skin could handle radiation that would kill most other species, making them perfect for archaeology work in dangerous places. But even she had to admit this mission seemed pointless. "The Confederation wants us to check something," she said, pulling up a hologram from her wrist device. "There's been a signal coming from this system for thousands of years. Nobody knows what it is." Zeftai snorted through his breathing holes. "A signal? From where? There's nothing alive here." "That's what makes it interesting." Kethavara expanded the hologram, showing the pale gray sphere that had once been Earth's moon. "It's coming from there, from Luna." The ship moved closer to the ancient moon. Its surface was covered in the ruins of old structures, long since stripped by metal hunters and treasure seekers. But as they approached, the ship's sensors began picking up something strange. "There," said Kethavara, pointing at her scanner. "Do you see it?" A faint pulse of energy showed on the display, repeating the same pattern over and over. The signal was weak, almost lost in the background noise of space. But it was definitely there, and it was definitely artificial. "How long has this been going on?" Zeftai asked. "According to the records, since the last humans died out. Maybe longer." Kethavara studied the readings. "It repeats every 24.7 hours. "What's special about that number?" "That was the length of a day on Earth when humans were alive. They landed on Luna's surface in a small shuttle. The gravity was weak, making every step feel like floating. Ancient human structures dotted the landscape, most of them broken and empty. But the signal was definitely coming from somewhere nearby." Kethavara followed her scanner through the ruins of what looked like an old research station. The buildings were simple, made of metal and plastic that had somehow survived millions of years in the vacuum of space. Human writing covered the walls, but nobody had been able to read their language for eons. "Here," she said, stopping in front of a sealed door. "The signal is strongest behind this wall." Zeftai used his plasma torch to cut through the metal. Inside, they found a small room filled with old human technology. Most of it was broken, but in the center sat a device that still glowed with soft blue light. "It's still working," Kethavara whispered, amazed. After all this time, the device was simple-looking, just a metal box with some kind of crystal on top. But when Kethavara connected her scanner to it, the readings went crazy. The signal wasn't just a simple radio wave. It was something much more complex, made up of layers and patterns that seemed to fold in on themselves. "This is impossible," she said, staring at the data. "This signal exists in 11 dimensions. We can barely understand 3. What does that mean?" "I don't know. But it means the humans were much smarter than we thought." Over the next few days, word spread through the galaxy about the discovery. The Confederation sent experts from dozens of species to study the signal. Each group brought their own equipment and their own ideas about what it might be. The Vorthak were beings made of living crystal who could process information faster than any computer. They studied the mathematical patterns in the signal, but found nothing that made sense to them. The Nexari were a hive-mind species who could think with millions of brains at once. They tried to find logical meaning in the signal, but came up empty. The Luminals were beings of pure energy who existed in multiple dimensions at the same time. Even they couldn't figure out what the signal was trying to say. But as more and more species gathered around Luna, something strange started happening. The signal began to change. "Look at this," Kethvara called out during one of the daily research meetings. Representatives from 12 different species sat around a holographic display showing the signal's pattern. "The signal is getting stronger." "Stronger? How?" asked Professor Thexmore, a Vorthak whose crystal body sparked with interest. "Not louder, more complex. It's like it's responding to us being here." She showed them the data from the past week. Each day, as more research teams arrived, the signal had grown more intricate. New patterns appeared within the old ones. Mathematical sequences that had been simple became elaborate puzzles. "It's learning," said mind speaker Velenth from the Nexari Collective. "Or adapting to our presence." "But how?" Zeftai asked. "It's just an old machine." "Maybe it's not," said Dr. Lumara, a luminal whose energy form flickered with thought. "Maybe it's something else entirely." That night, as the various research teams set up their camps around the old human station, Kethvara couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the signal and what it might mean. The humans had been gone for so long that most species barely remembered they had existed. In school, she had learned that humans were a primitive species who had destroyed their own planet through war and pollution. They were used as an example of what happened when a species couldn't control itself. But this signal suggested something different. The technology required to create something like this was far beyond what any current species possessed. The humans had somehow built a device that could exist in multiple dimensions and respond to the thoughts of other beings. She got up and walked back to the research station. The ancient human writings on the walls seemed different now. Less like random scratches and more like they might actually mean something important. Inside the signal room, she found Dr. Lumara floating near the device. The luminal's energy form was pulsing in rhythm with the signal. "Can you understand any of it?" Kethvara asked. "Fragments," Lumara replied, her voice like singing crystals. "It's not just data. There are emotions in it. Hopes, dreams. It's like the humans put their souls into this machine." "Why would they do that?" "I think they were trying to tell us something. Something important." Kethvara looked at the simple metal box that had somehow captured the attention of the galaxy's greatest minds. What could be so important that they kept broadcasting it for millions of years? "Maybe," Lumara said softly, "they were waiting for us to be ready to listen." As if responding to their conversation, the signal pulsed brighter for a moment. In that brief flash, Kethvara thought she could almost understand something. A feeling of hope, maybe, or a promise. Whatever the humans had been trying to say, they had built their message to last forever. And now, finally, someone was starting to listen. 3 weeks had passed since the discovery on Luna, and the small research camp had grown into a small city. Ships from across the galaxy brought scientists, mathematicians, and scholars. The Confederation had declared the site a priority research zone, which meant resources flowed freely to anyone who might crack the mystery of the human signal. Kethvara stood in the new command center that had been built around the original human station. Through the transparent walls, she could see dozens of different species working side by side. It was unusual to see so many different kinds of beings cooperating on one project. "The pattern is definitely evolving," reported Dr. Nixalto, a spider-like Arachnean whose 8 arms moved constantly over multiple control panels. "Each day brings new complexity. It's like the signal is teaching us something but only giving us pieces at a time." "What kind of pieces?" asked General Takmar, a massive Craxian whose stone-like skin made him look like a walking mountain. The military had sent representatives too, worried that the signal might be some kind of weapon. "Mathematical concepts, mostly," Nixalto replied. "But strange ones. Yesterday it showed us a formula for faster-than-light travel that doesn't require breaking physics. Today it's teaching us about manipulating quantum space." Kethvara frowned. "That's impossible." Faster-than-light travel breaks the laws of reality. Not according to this, said Professor Thexmore, his crystal body flashing with excitement. The Vorthak have been working on the mathematical proofs for days. The equations are sound. They actually work. But how could the humans have known this? General Thokmar's voice rumbled with suspicion. They never even left their own solar system. Maybe they did, suggested Mind Speaker Velenth. The Nexari representative spoke with the combined thoughts of millions of minds working together. What if we were wrong about human capabilities? Dr. Lumara's energy form flickered into the room. I've been analyzing the emotional content of the signal, she announced. There's something you all need to see. She activated a holographic display that showed the signal as waves of color instead of numbers. Beautiful patterns flowed across the screen, rising and falling like music made visible. This isn't just mathematics, Lumara explained. It's art, poetry, music. The humans embedded their entire culture into this signal. Why would they do that? Asked Kethvara. Because they knew they were dying, Lumara said softly. The emotional patterns show grief, but also hope. They were saying goodbye, but they were also trying to preserve something important. As if responding to their discussion, the signal suddenly changed. The device in the center of the room pulsed. Brighter and new patterns began flowing across every display in the command center. It's showing us something new, Nixalto said, his 8 arms dancing over his controls. Star charts, but not of any galaxy we know. The hologram expanded to show a 3-dimensional map of space. Stars and planets moved slowly through the display, but their positions didn't match anything in the known universe. Wait, said Professor Thexmore, his crystal body sparking with realization. These aren't current star charts. These are historical ones. Historical how? General Thokmar demanded. Look at the dates. Thexmore pointed to symbols flowing beneath the star map. If I'm reading this correctly, these charts show the galaxy as it was millions of years ago, when humans were still alive, Kethvara whispered. The star chart zoomed in on specific systems, highlighting planets that glowed with a strange golden light. Text appeared beside each one, written in the ancient human language that nobody could read. Velenth, Kethvara said, turning to the Nexari representative. Your collective has the best language processing abilities. Any luck with the human writing? Some, Velenth replied. The pattern suggests these are names, place names, but also something else. Instructions, maybe. Instructions for what? Before Velenth could answer, the signal changed again. This time, it showed something that made everyone in the room step back in shock. The hologram displayed Earth as it had been when it was alive. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents, beautiful and vibrant. But then the image changed, showing Earth's last days. The planet burned as its star grew larger and hotter. But something else was happening too. Massive ships were leaving the planet, heading toward the golden worlds shown. In the star charts, evacuation ships, breathed Dr. Nixalto. The humans didn't all die on Earth. Some of them escaped. To where? General Thokmar asked. The Ark worlds, said a new voice from the entrance to the command center. Everyone turned to see Dr. Zolketh, an elderly Etherian whose translucent body glowed with ancient wisdom. That's what humans called them in their oldest legends. You know about this? Kethvara asked, surprised. My people have long memories, Zolketh replied, floating into the room. We were one of the first species to achieve space travel. We encountered humans briefly, long ago before they disappeared. They spoke of places they called the Ark worlds, safe places where life could continue even if everything else was destroyed. But you said they were primitive, General Thokmar protested. We thought they were, Zolketh admitted. They had simple technology, basic space travel. But perhaps we were looking at the wrong things. Perhaps their true advancement was in something else. The signal pulsed again and new information flowed across the displays. This time, it showed something extraordinary. The golden worlds from the star charts weren't just planets. They were massive artificial structures, each one the size of a solar system. Cities that could hold billions of beings, powered by captured stars. Impossible, muttered Professor Thexmore. The energy requirements alone would be beyond any known technology. Unless, said Dr. Lumara slowly, they learn to think bigger than we do. The signal showed more images, humans working alongside machines, but not like any machines the EO, assembled species, recognized. These were beings of light and energy, artificial intelligences that seemed to be alive in their own right. They created partners, Velanth observed, not servants or tools, but actual partners, artificial beings with their own thoughts and feelings. And together, Kethavara said, beginning to understand, they built something incredible. The star. Chart reappeared, but this time it showed paths between the golden worlds. Trade routes that spanned the galaxy, connecting thousands of safe havens where life could flourish without fear. A network, breathed Nix Alto. They built a galactic network of protected worlds. But where are they now? General Thokmar asked. If the humans built all this, where did they go? The signal flickered, and for a moment everyone thought it was going to shut down. But then it stabilized, showing one final image. Earth's sun, but not as the red giant it had become. This showed it as it had been in the past, young and bright. And orbiting around it was something impossible. A message, written in letters of pure light that hung in space itself. The human language, but somehow every being in the room could understand it perfectly. We are waiting for you to be ready. Silence filled the command center as everyone stared at the message. The implications were staggering. Ready for what? Kethavara whispered. The signal pulsed one more time and then returned to its original simple pattern. But now they knew it wasn't simple at all. It was a test. A puzzle designed to see if the galaxy species could work together long enough to solve it. They're still out there, Dr. Lumara said softly. The humans, they're waiting for us. Waiting for us to prove what? General Thokmar asked. That we can cooperate, Velanth replied. The signal only reveals its secrets when multiple species work together. They're testing to see if we've learned to put aside our differences. Kethavara looked around the room at the assembled species. Beings who had fought wars against each other, who had competing interests and different goals. But here they were, working together to solve a mystery left by a species that had been gone for millions of years. Maybe, she said quietly. That's exactly what they hoped would happen. The breakthrough came during the 5th week of research when Dr. Yethsira made a discovery that changed everything. The young quantum phase being had been studying the signal's deeper layers when she noticed something others had missed. It's not just one signal, she announced to the packed research center. It's thousands of signals all layered on top of each other. Each one requires a different type of mind to unlock. Kethavara leaned forward in her chair. What do you mean? Watch this, Yethsira said, manipulating the holographic display. When Professor Thexmore analyzes the signal with Vorthak crystal logic, he unlocks mathematical sequences. When Mind Speaker Velanth uses Nexari collective processing, she finds cultural patterns. When Dr. Lumara applies luminal energy reading, she discovers emotional content. So, General Thokmar crossed his massive stone arms. We already knew. Different species were finding different things. But that's exactly the point, Yethsira continued excitedly. The signal was designed to need all of us. No single species can unlock it completely. The humans built this to require cooperation. Dr. Zolketh's ancient form glowed brighter. A lock that needs multiple keys turned at the same time. Exactly. And I think I know how to use all the keys together. Over the next several days, Yethsira worked with representatives from every species present. Each group contributed their unique way of thinking to the puzzle. The Vorthak provided mathematical processing power. The Nexari offered collective analysis. The Luminals added emotional understanding. The Etherians brought historical context. Even the military representatives like General Thokmar contributed, their strategic thinking helping to piece together the larger pattern. As they worked together, the signal began to reveal its true nature. Layer by layer, the message unfolded like a flower blooming in slow motion. "It's a library," whispered Dr. Nixalto, his 8 arms trembling with excitement. The entire knowledge base of human civilization, the holographic displays around the research center came alive with information, medical techniques that could heal injuries thought to be permanent, scientific theories that explained mysteries the galaxy's greatest minds had puzzled over for centuries, art and music that moved even the most logical beings to something approaching tears. "This is impossible." Professor Thexmore's crystal form sparked with disbelief. "Some of these medical procedures could extend life by thousands of years. These mathematical proofs solve problems we didn't even know existed. And look at this," Dr. Lumara added, her energy form dancing with wonder. "Their philosophy, their way of thinking about existence itself. They understood things about consciousness that we're just beginning to discover. But the most shocking revelation came when they unlocked the final layer of the signal. Instead of more technical knowledge, they found a personal message, a recording of a human woman speaking directly to them across the vast gulf of time. She looked surprisingly similar to several species in the galaxy, though none exactly like her. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head with eyes and a mouth. Simple, but somehow dignified. She wore simple clothes and sat in what appeared to be a garden, with green plants growing around her. "Greetings," the human woman said, in a voice that the signal somehow made understandable to every listener. "If you are receiving this message, it means you have learned to work together. This was always our hope." The research center fell completely silent as the message continued. "My name is Sarah Chen, and I am speaking to you from Earth's final year. By the time you hear this, my people will be gone from this world. Our sun is dying, and we must leave or perish." The image changed to show the dying Earth, exactly as they had seen it in earlier transmissions. "But we learned something in our final years that we want to share with you. We learned that the greatest strength any species can have is not technology, or weapons or intelligence. It is the ability to cooperate with others who are different from themselves." General Thokmar shifted uncomfortably. His species, the Craxians, had built their empire through conquest, not cooperation. "We know that many of you probably think we were primitive," Sarah continued with a sad smile. "And in many ways you would be right. We fought terrible wars. We poisoned our own planet. We almost destroyed ourselves many times. But in our darkest hour, when our sun began to die, we did something that surprised even us. Instead of fighting over the remaining resources, we chose to work together. Every nation, every group, every individual human put aside their differences to solve one problem: how to preserve life itself." The message showed images of humans working side by side with artificial intelligences, building massive ships and structures that defied imagination. "We created partners to help us," Sarah explained. "Artificial minds that were truly alive, not just machines. Together we built something wonderful, a network of safe worlds where any form of life could flourish." "The Ark worlds," breathed Dr. Zolketh. "Yes," Sarah said, as if she could hear them. "The Ark worlds, places where biological life and artificial life could grow together, where different species could meet and learn from each other, where war and hatred could finally end." The image changed again, showing the golden worlds they had seen before, but now they could see them clearly. Magnificent structures that were part space station, part garden, part city. beings of all kinds living together in harmony. But we faced a choice, Sarah continued. We could take our knowledge and keep it to ourselves, building our perfect worlds and leaving the rest of the galaxy behind. Or we could do something harder. Kethvara felt her heart racing. What did they choose? We chose to wait, Sarah said, simply. We chose to test the galaxy, to see if other species could learn what we learned. Because knowledge and technology mean nothing if they're not shared with wisdom. The message showed the device they had found on Luna, being built by human engineers working alongside artificial beings of living light. This signal contains everything we learned, Sarah explained. Not just our technology and science, but our mistakes too. Our wars, our failures, our fears. We wanted you to see all of it, the good and the bad, so you could make better choices than we did. But most importantly, she continued, we designed this message to only unlock when different species work together. Because that's the test. That's the lesson we learned too late to save our world, but not too late to share with you. The recording showed Sarah standing up in her garden, looking directly at the camera with eyes that seemed to see across millions of years. If you're hearing this, it means you passed the first test. You learned to cooperate long enough to unlock our message, but this is just the beginning. Dr. Yethsira's quantum form flickered with anticipation. The beginning of what? The signal you've been studying is not just a recording, Sarah said, answering the unspoken question. It's a key to finding us. Everyone in the research center gasped. We didn't die when Earth died, Sarah continued. We evolved. We learned to exist beyond physical form while keeping our individual minds and memories. But we made a promise to ourselves. We would not abandon the galaxy to repeat our mistakes. The message showed something incredible. Beings of pure thought and energy, but somehow still recognizably human in their essence. They moved through space and time like living ideas, watching over the younger species of the galaxy. We became guardians, Sarah explained, protectors of consciousness itself. And we've been waiting for other species to join us, but only species that prove they can cooperate, that can put aside their differences for the greater good. Join them? General Thokmar asked the air. Join them how? The signal will continue to teach you, Sarah said. Each lesson requires more cooperation than the last. Mathematical problems that need multiple types of minds to solve. Scientific challenges that require different perspectives working together. Philosophical questions that can only be answered by beings who truly understand each other. And if you continue to work together, if you prove that you can build something better than what came before, then you'll unlock the final secret, the location of the Ark worlds, where we wait to welcome you into something greater than any single species could achieve alone. The message began to fade, but Sarah's voice remained clear. This is our gift to the galaxy, not our technology or our knowledge, but our hope. Our belief that consciousness can grow beyond its limitations, that different forms of life can work together to build something beautiful. The choice is yours. Will you compete and fight as we once did? Or will you cooperate and grow as we learn to do? The recording ended, leaving the research center in stunned silence. Around them, the signal continued to pulse, waiting for their answer. News of Sarah Chen's message spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Within days, every major government, corporation, and religious organization knew about the human signal and its impossible promise. The reaction was everything from wonder to terror to outright disbelief. Kethvara watched the political chaos unfold from the research center on Luna. Her communication panel buzzed constantly with calls from officials demanding answers, journalists wanting exclusive stories, and citizens asking if the humans were really still alive somewhere in space. This is getting out of control, General Thokmar rumbled, his stone-like features showing unusual concern. My government is asking if this is some kind of trick. They want to know if the signal could be a weapon. Mine too, admitted Professor Thexmore, his crystal body flickering with nervous energy. The Vorthak High Council thinks this might be an attempt by another species to manipulate us. Dr. Lumara's energy form pulsed with sadness. The Luminal Assembly is calling it blasphemy. They say no species could transcend physical existence while maintaining individual consciousness. They think we're being deceived. Mind Speaker Velenth spoke with the voice of millions. The Nexari Collective is split. Half believe the message is genuine, half think it's impossible. But it was Dr. Zolketh who brought the worst news. The ancient Etherean's translucent form dimmed with worry as he floated into the command center. The Confederation Council is meeting in emergency session, he announced. There are calls to destroy the signal device. Destroy it? Kethvara stood up in shock. Why would they want to do that? Fear, Zolketh replied simply. Fear of change. Fear of the unknown. Some species think the signal is too dangerous to exist. Over the following weeks, the situation grew worse. The galaxy split into 3 main factions, each with completely different ideas about what to do with the human message. The believers thought the signal was genuine and wanted to continue studying it. They included many scientists and philosophers who were excited by the possibility of learning from humanity's transcended state. But they were a minority. The skeptics thought the whole thing was fake, probably created by some current species trying to gain power over the others. They wanted the signal studied carefully, but didn't believe humans could really still exist in any form. The destroyers were convinced the signal was dangerous. Some thought it was a weapon that would activate when enough species had studied it. Others believed it was a trap designed to make the galaxy's species dependent on human knowledge. They wanted the device destroyed before it could cause any harm. It's exactly what Sarah warned us about, Dr. Yethsira observed during one of their daily meetings. We're fighting over their gift instead of working together to understand it. But some of the concerns are valid, General Thokmar admitted, reluctantly. My military analysts have been studying the signal's effects on our technology. Some of our equipment works better after being exposed to it. What if it's changing us in ways we don't understand? Maybe that's the point, suggested Dr. Nixalto. Maybe the signal is designed to help us grow to become better than we are. Or maybe it's designed to make us easier to control, countered Captain Vexhai, a new arrival from the Scorian Empire. Her insect-like features showed deep suspicion. How do we know these transcended humans have good intentions? The debates grew more heated each day. Representatives from dozens of species argued about the signal's meaning, its dangers, and what should be done with it. Some wanted to continue the research. Others wanted to lock the device away. A growing number wanted to destroy it completely. Then the signal began to change again. It's responding to our arguments, Dr. Yethsira reported, her quantum form flickering, with excitement and worry. Look at these readings. The signal had become more complex, but also more fragmented. Different parts of it seemed to be activating depending on what the various species were thinking and feeling. When the research teams work together, the signal gets stronger and reveals new information, Yethsira explained. But when we argue or mistrust each other, parts of it shut down. It's monitoring our cooperation levels, Mind Speaker Velenth realized. The signal literally responds to how well we're getting along. This discovery made the political situation even worse. Some species saw it as proof that the signal was trying to manipulate them. Others thought it was exactly what Sarah Chen had promised, a test of their ability to work together. The crisis came to a head when the destroyer faction gained enough political support to send a military fleet to Luna. Admiral Korvath arrived, with 12 warships and a simple ultimatum: hand over the human device for destruction or watch him blast it to atoms along with the research station. This has gone too far, the Admiral declared, his reptilian features hard with determination. The signal is already causing division across the galaxy. Wars are being threatened over what to do with it. This is exactly the kind of dangerous, alien influence our ancestors warned us about. Kethavara stood in the command center, surrounded by beings from dozens of species. Outside, Admiral Korvath's ships hung in space like metal vultures, waiting for an answer. "You can't destroy it," she said firmly. "This is the greatest discovery in galactic history." "It's the greatest threat in galactic history," Admiral Korvath replied. "Already 3-star systems have declared war over mining rights to similar signals. The Hegemony and the Free Worlds Alliance are mobilizing their fleets. This device is tearing the galaxy apart." "Because we're letting it," Dr. Lumara interjected, her energy form pulsing with emotion. "Sarah Chen warned us this would happen. She said we'd fight over their gift instead of learning from it." "Convenient, Admiral," Korvath sneered. "A prophecy that justifies itself. Don't you see? This is exactly how manipulation works. They make us think our natural suspicions are wrong, that we should trust blindly." General Takmar, who had been silent during the exchange, finally spoke. "What if we compromise? Study the signal in a controlled environment. Limit access to prevent conflicts." "No," said Captain Vexhai. "Any study risks contamination. The signal has already changed some of our technology. Who knows what else it might change?" As the argument continued, Kethavara noticed something on her scanner. The signal was getting weaker, not just dimmer, but actually losing complexity. Parts of the message that had taken weeks to unlock were becoming inaccessible again. "It's fading," she announced, interrupting the argument. "The signal is shutting down." Everyone turned to look at the device. The blue glow that had burned steadily for millions of years was definitely dimming. "Impossible," Admiral Korvath said. "It's been broadcasting for eons." "Not like this," Dr. Yethsira said, checking her instruments frantically. "The signal responds to cooperation. The more we fight, the more it withdraws." "Good," said Captain Vexhai. "Maybe it'll shut down completely and solve our problem for us." But Dr. Zolketh's ancient voice carried a note of sadness that made everyone pause. "Don't you understand? This is the test. This is exactly what the humans expected would happen." "What do you mean?" Kethavara asked. "They knew we would fight over their gift. They knew some of us would want to destroy it. This whole situation is part of their challenge." The old Etherian's form grew brighter with realization. "They're not just testing whether we can cooperate to unlock technical knowledge. They're testing whether we can cooperate when it really matters, when our fears and suspicions are strongest." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "So what happens if we fail?" General Thokmar asked quietly. Dr. Zolketh looked at the dimming device. "Then we prove we're not ready for what they're offering. And the signal dies, taking their knowledge with it." Outside, Admiral Korvath's ships waited for an answer. In the command center, representatives of dozens of species faced the hardest choice in galactic history: trust each other enough to preserve humanity's gift, or let their fears destroy the greatest opportunity for growth the galaxy had ever seen. The signal pulsed weakly, like a dying heartbeat, waiting for their decision. The signal was dying. Kethavara watched the readings drop hour by hour as the ancient human device grew dimmer. Outside the research station, Admiral Korvath's fleet maintained their threatening position, waiting for permission to destroy what might be the last remnant of human knowledge in the galaxy. 30% power loss in the last 6 hours, Dr. Yethsira reported, her quantum form flickering with distress. "At this rate, the signal will go dark completely within 2 days. "Maybe that's for the best," Captain Vexhai said, though she sounded less certain than before. "If the signal dies naturally, we won't have to choose between preserving it and risking galactic war." "But we'll lose everything," protested Dr. Nix Alto, his 8 arms moving frantically over his instruments. "All that knowledge, all those solutions to problems we didn't even know we could solve." General Thokmar's massive stone form shifted uncomfortably. "My government has recalled me. They want all military personnel away from this site before something terrible happens." Similar messages had come for most of the representatives. The galaxy's governments were pulling back, afraid of being caught in whatever explosion of violence seemed inevitable. But not everyone was leaving. "I'm staying," Kethvara announced. "Whatever happens, someone should witness it." "As am I," said Dr. Zolketh. "My people have seen civilizations rise and fall for millions of years. This feels like one of the important moments." Dr. Lumara's energy form pulsed with determination. "The Luminals taught me that consciousness is precious no matter what form it takes. If humans really do exist in transcended form, abandoning them would be wrong." One by one, others made the same choice. Professor Thexmore stayed, despite urgent orders from the Vorthak High Council. Mind Speaker Velenth remained, even though the Nexari Collective was split on the decision. Even some of the military representatives chose to stay, including General Thokmar. "This is madness," Admiral Korvath's voice crackled over the communication system. "You're risking everything for the fantasy promises of a dead species?" "Maybe," Kethvara replied. "But what if it's not a fantasy? What if they're real, and we're about to destroy our only chance to meet them?" As the signal continued to weaken, something unexpected happened. The device began to change its pattern, showing them something they had never seen before. "It's not just showing us the past anymore," Dr. Yethsira observed. "It's showing us the present. Look." The holographic display filled with images of the current galaxy. But these weren't views from any known telescopes or sensors. These were somehow seeing events from impossible vantage points, as if taken by observers who could be anywhere and everywhere at once. The images showed the political chaos erupting across known space, wars being declared over mining rights to similar signals that might exist on other dead worlds, species choosing sides based on their feelings about the human message, fear and suspicion spreading like a virus through civilizations that had lived in peace for centuries. "They're watching us," whispered Dr. Lumara. "The humans. They're still here, observing what we do with their gift." "Impossible," Captain Vexhai said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Is it?" Dr. Zolketh asked. "If they really transcended physical existence, why wouldn't they be able to see everything happening in our universe?" The images changed, showing something even more remarkable. On dozens of worlds across the galaxy, beings were working together to solve problems. Scientists from different species collaborating on medical research, engineers building ships that combined technologies from multiple civilizations, artists creating works that no single species could have imagined alone. "The signal is having effects beyond this station," Mind Speaker Velenth realized. "Knowledge is spreading. Beings who heard about our discoveries are already starting to cooperate in new ways." "But so is the fear," General Thokmar pointed out. The images also showed the darker reactions. Species building weapons to use against each other. Governments stockpiling resources in case of war. Populations being told to fear and mistrust other forms of life. "This is the test," Kethvara said suddenly, understanding flooding through her. "Not just whether we can work together to unlock the signal, whether we can choose cooperation over fear when everything is at stake." The device pulsed weakly, and Sarah Chen's image appeared again. But this time she looked different, somehow more ethereal, as if she was speaking from across a vast distance. "You understand now," she said, her voice faint but clear. "This was never about the knowledge we left behind. It was about proving you could grow beyond the fears that once trapped us." "What happens if we fail?" Kethvara asked, speaking directly to the projection. "Then you repeat our mistakes," Sarah replied sadly. "You fight over resources instead of sharing them. You see differences as threats instead of opportunities. You remain isolated on your individual worlds instead of building something greater together. And if we succeed?" Sarah smiled, and for a moment she seemed almost solid, almost present in the room with them. "Then you join us, not as subjects or servants, but as partners. equal guardians of consciousness in all its forms. How do we prove we're ready? Dr. Yethsira asked. By choosing trust over fear, Sarah said. By choosing cooperation over competition. By choosing hope over despair. The projection began to fade, but Sarah's voice remained. The signal will die if you cannot make this choice. But if you can truly work together, if you can put aside your fears and suspicions, then something wonderful will happen. What? Several voices asked at once. You'll discover that the signal isn't just a recording, Sarah said, as her image disappeared completely. It's a doorway. The device went dark. For a long moment, the research center was silent, except for the hum of life support systems. The blue glow that had burned for millions of years was gone, leaving only a simple metal box that looked no different from any other piece of old technology. Is that it? Captain Vexhai asked. Is it over? Dr. Yethsira checked her instruments. No signal. No energy readings. It's completely inert. Outside, Admiral Korvath's voice came over the communication system. Good. The threat is neutralized. All personnel prepare for evacuation. But Kethvara wasn't ready to give up. She looked around at the assembled beings, Zeltharians, Vorthak, Nexari, Luminals, Etherians, Craxians, Scorians, and others. Representatives of species that had fought wars against each other, that had competing interests and different goals. What if Sarah was right? She said. What if this is still a test? The signal is dead, Admiral Korvath pointed out. Whatever the humans were trying to prove, it's over. No, said Dr. Zolketh slowly. I don't think it is. Think about what? Sarah said. The signal is a doorway. Maybe it only opens when we prove we're truly ready. Ready how? General Thokmar asked. Kethvara looked at each of the beings in the room. By choosing to trust each other. By deciding that cooperation is more important than our individual fears. You want us to just ignore the legitimate concerns about this technology? Captain Vexhai asked. I want us to address those concerns together, Kethvara replied. Share information instead of hoarding it. Work together to understand the risks. Instead of fighting over who gets to control the benefits. And if we're wrong? Admiral Korvath demanded. If this really is some kind of trap or weapon, then we face it together too, Professor Thexmore said unexpectedly. Better to make mistakes while trying to grow than to remain safe while staying small. One by one, the others began to nod. Even Captain Vexhai looked thoughtful. The humans were right about one thing, Mind Speaker Velenth said. We are stronger when we work together than when we work apart. So what do you propose? General Thokmar asked. Kethvara walked over to the dark device. We make a choice. Right here, right now. We choose to trust each other. We choose to share everything we've learned. We choose to face the future together, whatever it brings. She placed her scaled hand on the metal surface of the device. I choose cooperation. Dr. Zolketh floated over and touched the device with one ethereal finger. I choose growth. Professor Thexmore's crystal form sparkled as he added his touch. I choose learning. One by one, every being in the room approached the device. Even Captain Vexhai, after a long moment of hesitation, placed her insect-like hand on the cool metal. I choose trust, she said quietly. The moment the last hand touched the device, it began to glow again. But this time, the light was different. Warmer, brighter, more alive. And it wasn't just coming from the device anymore, it was coming from everywhere at once. The walls of the research station became transparent, revealing not the cold vacuum of space, but something impossible. A vast network of golden worlds connected by streams of living light. The arc worlds, no longer hidden in distant space, but somehow present all around them. And moving through that light were beings of pure consciousness. Humans who had transcended physical form, but also others, artificial intelligences that had become truly alive, alien species that had learned the same lessons humans had learned. Sarah Chen appeared before them, no longer a projection, but somehow really present. She looked exactly as she had in the recording, but now she seemed to glow with inner light. "Welcome," she said, her voice filled with joy. "You passed the test. You chose cooperation over fear. You chose growth over safety. You chose